the 21st of June 2015 at 6 PM local time New Zealand, and as you can see I'm zoomed in on the moon, and I've got the camera set to manual focus and manual exposure. So the moon's phase is just a couple of days old today, and what I'm going to demonstrate in this video is how changing the exposure setting on the camera will cause the moon to look a lot thicker than it really is. So first of all I'm going to zoom out because this effect will be more obvious if I do. Okay, so that is with the camera set correctly with the manual focus set to infinity and the exposure setting so that the moon is not overexposed. So what I'm going to do now is adjust the exposure setting upwards so that we overexpose the moon, and you'll see what happens. Here we go, adjusting it now, and you can see that the moon is thickening up. It appears to be a lot thicker than the original Crescent that we started filming with. And you'll notice too that we can see the dark part of the moon there. Now that the camera is overexposed, you can see the dark area of the moon. Now what we're seeing there is actually reflected light from the Earth. So we've got sunlight that's bouncing off mainly the clouds of the Earth, and that is bouncing back to the dark side of the moon and illuminating that area that's not getting direct sunlight. Remember, there is no dark side of the moon as such. All sides of the moon do get sunlight depending on where the moon is in its phase, but at the moment we're looking at the dark area that's not getting direct sunlight. So I'm going to adjust the exposure downwards again now, and we'll see that Crescent come back as it should, and I'm going to take it right down to the other extreme and see what happens. Okay, so that's right down at its lowest point now, and we've still maintained that Crescent phase. So I'm just going to zoom that, adjust that back up again so it's overexposed, and just play with the zoom a little bit and see how that makes things appear. So I'm zooming out, and that seems to exaggerate that effect as I zoom out. So let's hold it there, and I'll adjust that exposure setting back downwards, all the way down, and you can see how thin Crescent has come back. And let's take it all the way up the other way. And the point of this video, of course, is to show that the video in the KCRA 3 news report that Marshall Masters was using was in fact a Venus in a Crescent phase, which is normal for Venus, and especially on that date 23rd of January 2014, Venus was in the phase it should be as shown in that news video. It was not Nibiru eclipsing Venus, it was just Venus in a Crescent phase, just as it should be. So there we have it. That's today's moon, 21st of June 2015. The time now is, let me see, 2 minutes past 6 local time New Zealand. And one more time I'll adjust the exposure up and exaggerate it. There we go. You can see the dark side of the moon as well. The dark area of the moon. I should stop calling it the dark side of the moon because there is no dark side of the moon. And let me just zoom in again and all the way, and adjust that exposure down, and we should get a fairly clear view of the moon. There we go. Now while I'm here, let's back this right off, and just to prove that this is the 21st of June, not an older video, let's I've zoomed that out. Let's adjust the exposure back up again, and what do we see coming into view? We've got Venus and Jupiter. So Venus is the bright one at the bottom, Jupiter is the one that's not so bright in the middle underneath the moon. And of course you can check this using Stellarium or any good astronomy program for the 21st of June, 6 PM as seen from New Zealand, and you will see that this is the configuration that you should see in your Stellarium program, just as I'm seeing here. Venus on the bottom, Jupiter in the middle, Moon on the top. And now that I'm zoomed out, let's adjust that exposure right down, and you'll see that Venus and Jupiter disappear because the camera's not bright enough. You'll see that Venus is still there, but Jupiter's not bright enough to be seen. So there we have it, exposure settings, makes all the difference. Let's back up again. Today is Sunday, the 21st of June 2015 at 6 PM local time New Zealand. And as you can see, I'm zoomed in on the moon, and I've got the camera set to manual focus and manual exposure. So the moon's phase is just a couple of days old today, and what I'm going to demonstrate in this video is how changing the exposure setting on the camera will cause the moon to look a lot thicker than it really is. So first of all, I'm going to zoom out because this effect will be more obvious if I do. Okay, so that is with the camera set correctly with the manual focus